You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Wow, Jack, T-Wolves looked pretty bad the first, 3 quarters, but they survive after a fourth quarter explosion by Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle, triple-double. We'll talk about that. 102-97, though, that's your final. Wolves go up 2-1 in this series. What's going on back in the lab? Back at it. Another T-Wolves postcast episode right here on the Lockdown Sports Minnesota Network, your team every day. Jack Borman with me, as always. Give him a follow on X at JRBorman13. Jack, there's a lot I want to get into. I just want to start here, though. Again, wildly frustrating start the first 3 quarters. As a Wolves fan, I mean, I had to walk away countless times. I had to take a breath. I almost shut this thing off, to be honest. But I think about that fourth quarter, 6-7 minutes left, they found a way to find some momentum. They held on. They pulled this thing off at the end. My question for you, though, I wonder how much of those final 6-7 minutes, Jack, with the playoff experience these guys got to soak up last year during that run, Western Conference Finals run, Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert, Ant another year older, even Julius and DDV in New York, Naz Reid, all these guys, the experience to stay calm and in the biggest stage, right, find a way to win even though you're not playing your best brand of basketball. Like, how huge do you think that came into play tonight during crunch time on the road, no less?
Yeah, I think it was really important, and not only necessarily the crunch time experience, but you got to go through fires with guys just over the course of a season or 2 seasons to kind of build that cohesion and that chemistry. And I think, when I was rewatching the film of Game 2, it was just pretty clear that a lot of the lineups that Steve Kerr was putting out there just very clearly did not have much experience playing together. When you consider that, the Warriors gutted a decent amount of their functional depth in order to make that Jimmy Butler trade. And in this game, that also stood out, that I think down the stretch into the fourth quarter, I think, just a lot of these guys for the Timberwolves have played a ton of minutes together, right? And that's been the case all season long. And a lot of the lineups the Wolves leaned on down the stretch were guys that have been very comfortable playing with one another, even in the first round of the playoffs too, right? Because with Rudy being off the floor at times, the Wolves have gotten that small ball look down a little bit better. And, and then when Rudy came back into the game, Mike and Rudy, flanked by Ant and Jaden and Julius, those guys have just played a lot of minutes together and felt comfortable. So I think that certainly had a ton to do with it, especially on the offensive end of the floor.
Yeah, 100%. Big picture, what do you want to start with? I know you got a lot of great notes after this one. Again, this game was so ugly, but the Wolves took advantage at the end of the breaks they got. There's a couple huge sequences. I wish we had the copyright rights, right, to show some of these sequences. I'm sure you'll see them on Twitter. In fact, SportsCenter, wherever you can find them, YouTube. There was some monster sequences. I'm sure we don't have time to get into them all, but nonetheless, where do you want to stop? Big picture, knowing this team's up 2-1 now. Obviously, no Steph Curry, likely for at least the next 2 games. Sounds like that'll be day-to-day. He's going to test that that morning of Game 5. But start wherever you want at the top. Big picture, how you feel about this team right now, up 2-1.
Yeah, I think big picture, if the Timberwolves play like they just did, especially in the offensive end of the floor with the offensive IQ that they displayed for the first 3 quarters of this game, they are going to lose one of the next 2 games, and not have an opportunity to put this thing away before Steph Curry returns potentially for Game 6. So I just thought that the Wolves did so many things poorly on the offensive end of the floor. They dribbled into traps and double teams just across half court throughout the majority of the first half. They picked up their dribble super far away from the basket and then made a lot of soft, whether it be bounce passes, chest passes, jump passes, kind of these rainbow passes over defenders that resulted in passes getting tipped and possessions just kind of getting junked up, and the Wolves not being able to get off many clean looks earlier on in the shot clock and getting that kind of early, easy in rhythm offense that we see. And a lot of that came when Mike Conley was off the floor in the first half of this game. For the majority of the first half of this game, the Timberwolves offensive rating was just in the toilet when Mike Conley was off the floor. I mean, through the first 21 minutes of this game, the Wolves won the minutes. The 12 minutes Mike Conley was on the floor by 16 points. They had a 145 offensive rating with Mike on the floor and a 13% turnover rate. And when Mike was off the floor for about eight and a half minutes, they only scored 7 points. They lost 19-7, had a 41 offensive rating and a 37.5% turnover rate. So they turned it over 3 times as much. They scored 3 times, at a 3 times lower rate when Mike was off the floor. So they just really needed a guy that could get things organized, that could handle the ball pressure up top, and then help the Wolves kind of get into some of their early offense. So I think how they handle that type of ball pressure up top, I think is going to determine a lot for the rest of this series, because when they were able to get into their early offense, move the ball side to side, Ant was able to draw to and make some better passes in the second half, especially. They were just able to operate a lot more cleanly in that second half. And so I think the rest of this series is not about the Warriors. It is about the Timberwolves. And I think it was really good to see the Timberwolves close in the fourth quarter the way that they did, just for, I think, team morale's sake, considering how poorly they played for the first 3 quarters. But again, look, winning in the playoffs, nothing matters except what the final scoreboard says. And looking up here right in front of me at Chase Center, it says 102-97 Timberwolves. So you got to give the guys a lot of credit for the way that they overcame a ton in this game to just find a way. It's all that matters this time of year. Just find a way, and the Wolves certainly did that tonight.
Yep, doesn't always have to look pretty, that's for sure. And that goes not just into the NBA, but all sports. We see it all the time. Lots to get into. Again, what are we already 6-7 minutes in? Lots to get into. But first, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Game Time. Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Let's just start at the top, I guess. Let's start here. Wolves Warriors game 3 on the road this time. No Steph Curry. And again, very frustrating the first 3 quarters, because everybody in the world, except maybe Warriors fans, right, knew the Wolves were the more talented team. And yet possession after possession, time after time, the Wolves just felt like they just kept shooting themselves in the foot. Bad plays, boneheaded moves, you name it. Halftime, you're down 2. You're down 2 at halftime. The Warriors didn't even make a 3-point shot. No Steph. The Warriors didn't make a 3-point shot. You go into the locker room down 2. Their longest make at halftime was like 17 feet. Ant was only 3 for 12. He, 8 points, I want to say, at halftime going to the locker room. Third quarter really wasn't that much better, but at least you saw Anthony Edwards starting to heat up there a little bit in that third quarter. And then the fourth quarter, that's when the explosion happened. Ant ends with 36. Julius triple-double, 24 points. Some monster possessions again, down with 2-3 minutes left for the Wolves. They just made enough plays at the end in crunch time when it mattered most. They surged past the Warriors and hold on final minutes, 102-97. I want to get into the MVP. What do you want to do first, the MVP or the turning point? I think we should go MVP first and then start to break down that turning point in segment 2. What do you think?
Let's do it.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Feel like you could go one of 2 ways here. I'm interested which direction you're going to go. Tonight's game MVP, though, Jack, for the Wolves. Who was it and why?
There's only one way to go here. Julius Randle was phenomenal in this game. Again, I'm a broken record at this point, Luke, but when things have looked dire, when emotionally things have gotten off the rails, when the Timberwolves struggle to score, when the opposing crowd starts getting in the game, they go to one guy, and he's delivered time and time again, and that was Julius Randle. 24 points, 12 assists, 10 rebounds. He is the second player in franchise history to record a triple-double in the playoffs, joining Kevin Garnett, who did that 3 times. And according to OptaStats, he recorded the first triple-double against the Warriors in the playoffs since LeBron James in the 2018 finals on June 6th. So
left that lingering for a while, for a good beat there.
So I just think the way that Julius was able to just deliver in the half court when the team really needed it, as they were kind of trying to find an offensive rhythm in that third quarter and then into that fourth quarter was pretty tremendous. And, I was sitting here with my guy, Travis Singleton, sneaker reporter, next to me, and we were both looking at each other like, why are the Timberwolves posting up Julius Randle against Draymond Green? And he missed the first time he did it in the third quarter, and then sorry about that. And then after that, just went right at Draymond and scored 3 or 4 times in the second half, as Draymond was trying to stay out of foul trouble. And I thought that was just super important just for the morale of the Wolves to kind of keep them within shouting distance while the Warriors went on their runs. And one thing that, there was really only one thing that I really did not like from Chris Finch in this game, and that was when they took Randall out after Randall kind of started cooking, late in that third quarter. They took Randall out. So Buddy Hield hits a wide open corner 3 to go up 4. And this arena was going absolutely bananas at that point. And then Randall immediately comes down, gets an and one, and then has a post up score the next trip on Draymond. So he goes on a 5-0 run by himself. And then Chris Finch took him out to go back to Rudy Gobert. And the Warriors kind of seized momentum from there. And that kind of rode into the early part of the fourth quarter. And I think the Wolves kind of missed an opportunity to maybe go into the fourth quarter with a lead had they kept rolling with Randall. But, doesn't necessarily matter too much considering they got the win. But the way that they were able to play through Randall again, he has an assist to turnover ratio of 3 in this game. And we talked about it in the last game that Julius Randle created a season high 30 points off of assists. He created 30 more again. In this game tonight. He created 6 threes, 6 twos, and it was just super good to see him, especially get a couple guys who have been struggling from 3 and Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards involved. Assisted Ant on a huge 3 that was kind of the backbreaker in the fourth quarter. So that one was pretty important as well. And then I just want to point out, one other thing that Randall did super well in this game, and I think he did it in the last game as well. I think I'll pull up the number during the next ad break that we have here. But Julius Randle, while he was on the floor tonight in this game, he accounted for 54 points, 54 of the team's 92 points while he was on the floor tonight, about 2/3 of the team's offense while he was out there. I just think the way that he's found just a consistency in terms of his ability to impact the offensive end of the floor, whether it's, driving, getting the ball in the nail, posting up, drawing 2 or 3 guys in and kicking it out to create open 3-point shots, or playing physically through the teeth of the defense when the Wolves need a bucket, or just his ability to set smart screens that get Anthony Edwards going, I think are so pivotal for this team. And I think, that last comment from Tyler, I think it's beginning to be very true. I just really don't think that the Wolves can afford to lose this version of Julius Randle, especially with the way that he's jived, offensively with Anthony Edwards. He's been a really, really good Robin to Anthony Edwards Batman for most of the season, but it really has felt like it's been the other way around for the last handful of games. And I think the way that this Timberwolves team has empowered Randle with the ball in his hands as a playmaker, as an offensive hub in the middle of the floor, has been wonderful. And I think Julius Randle deserves all the credit in the world for proving me wrong, proving everybody in this chat wrong, proving everybody in Minnesota wrong for, just dispelling just about every single narrative out there about him over the course of this season. And I think Chris Finch deserves a ton of credit too. I mean, he had been steadfastly supportive of Randle throughout even his struggles, saying that it's going to come and that he's been asked to change his, kind of change things about his offensive game. But I think the way that they've been able to kind of find the optimal kind of point on the graph of like, how much do you let Randle be Randle versus how much do you need Randle to fit into what you're kind of doing here? I think they've really found that optimal point on the graph, and it's just been a godsend for Minnesota. So again, for Randle, 24 points, 12 assists, 10 rebounds, his first career playoff triple-double, and just the 4th in Timberwolves franchise history. He's the game MVP tonight.
Absolutely. Well said there. Good breakdown. Fantastic game by Julius with that triple-double. Plenty more deep dive from this one. I want to ask Jack what the biggest turning point in this game was. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Right now, FanDuel is giving you a chance at a huge return, $250 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. And why I love FanDuel, when you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you go check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play, all on the same page where you place your bets. Again, $250 in bonus bets guaranteed when you hit your first $5 wager. Go check it all out over at FanDuel.com. Get in some NBA future action while you're there. T-Wolves Knicks finals odds right now 11-1. It's all sitting up over at FanDuel.com. Again, check it all out over at FanDuel.com and get $250 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
I'm not joking. Dude, game 3 in the semis, you're on the road, tied up 1-1. I almost shut this game off, dude, multiple times. It was just so frustrating. Only up 2 at halftime, which is the craziest part. Excuse me, down 2 at halftime, which is the craziest part. Down 4 going in the fourth quarter, and then the explosion by Ant and company. Some monster plays, some monster sequences in that mix, those final 6-7 minutes. But you tell us, Jack, biggest turning point in this game. What was the moment you just said to yourself, hey, they finally got their swag back, right? They're going to go take this thing down. When was it and why?
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of people will point to Draymond fouling out, but I think the biggest turning point for the Wolves was when Anthony Edwards hit a 3 at the end of the shot clock. Was just an absurd shot on the left wing at the 9:45 mark of the fourth quarter. That to me felt like a break that the Timberwolves desperately needed, and they totally took advantage of it. And I just thought that the way that the Wolves kind of looked at themselves collectively and said, okay, like that was a shot we really needed. That was the break we needed. Now we need to just lock in on the other end of the floor and get some stops. And I just thought the intensity that everybody played with on both ends of the floor just rose a level after that, and said like, and just kind of felt like, okay, Ant just saw one go through. Like now he's gonna kind of pour it on and get going. And I mean that's just kind of what happened from there on. I mean, you want to look at the 9:45 mark of the fourth. Ant makes that 3. Next possession, Nas makes a 3 on an offensive rebound from Mike Conley, and then and then from there, even after the Warriors kicked it back up to 5 points, it was just like, all right, Ant created a bucket for Randall. Then Randall creates a bucket for Ant. Ant makes another 3-pointer. So it was just, that was the moment at which Ant really kind of got into the flow of the game on the offensive end of the floor and started to help, just create things for himself and others and find a little bit more rhythm of knowing, okay, this is where I'm going to try to get to on the floor to draw the defense this way so I can make a kick out pass across the floor. It just totally felt like a backbreaker in the arena too. I think the energy in the arena could just kind of totally shifted after that as well. And you could certainly feel it. And I would really compare this crowd to what we saw in LA. Like Target Center has been way louder than this arena. There weren't that many Wolves fans in here. There were a lot more Wolves fans in LA, but I mean, at the tip of this game, the lower bowl was probably like 60% full, maybe 65% full. And wow, I just thought that, the way that the Wolves kind of took the crowd out of the game early was important. And the way that I think they made their breaks in the fourth quarter and took what air was in this building out of it was really important. And I think Ant deserves a lot of credit for that. I mean, I was hammering Ant on Twitter, and I think deservedly so for the way that he played in the first half. I mean, the difference in basketball IQ between Jimmy Butler and Anthony Edwards in the first 3 quarters was pretty staggering. But I think the way that Anthony Edwards just, sheer willpower in that fourth quarter and his ability to just not let bad play take him out for the rest of the game, especially in these playoff games, has been tremendous. I mean, he had the huge poster on Looney was important too for him to find his energy. But I think just the way that, he just kept shooting, right? Made a couple of huge threes in that fourth quarter. And for Anthony Edwards himself, he had 13 points in the fourth quarter. He had 10 in the that was just with Randall on. Sorry about that. In the third quarter, Ant had 15 points, and then in the fourth quarter, he had 13 points. So 28 second half points for Ant on 10 of 16 shooting. That's the second highest playoff half he's had in his career. So he deserves a ton of credit for the way that he kind of bounced back in this and just relentlessly attacked the rim. I thought if you want to kind of see a mini turning point in this game, I thought late in the third quarter when Draymond Green had to exit with his 4th foul, Anthony Edwards, as part of a run of 10 straight points that he scored for the Timberwolves in that third quarter, 7 of them came when Draymond Green came out of the game, and so it was 3 scores at the rim and then got fouled at the rim and only made 1 of 2 free throws. But it's just things like that of him kind of recognizing, all right, now is the time when I really need to turn it on. Because in the first half of this game, Draymond Green did an excellent job of playing in the gaps on Anthony Edwards. And anytime Ant saw Draymond, he just totally veered back out and tried to find something different, whether it was, moving the ball to Julius or whatever the case may be. But I mean, Draymond's impact on this game defensively was just absurd. He's been tremendous all series on this end of the floor, but it's really messing with Anthony Edwards' head. And I think, the way that he just, again, found a way in the fourth quarter, especially when Draymond was out, in the third and fourth, when Draymond was out was really important. And I think, those are moments that we've looked back, all season of, the Wolves weren't able to take advantage of this guy being in foul trouble or this guy being out of the game or this happening. And again, the Wolves desperately needed breaks in a game that was just absolutely disgusting like this game was. I mean, it was just the Warriors dragging the Wolves down into the mud and say, hey, let's play the way we want to play this game. And for them to come out victorious was pretty huge.
Yeah. We've been talking about, we've been sitting here about how we're still waiting for this team to look and play like we know they can, right? To finally fire on all cylinders. And again, thank God they won tonight, but man, obviously not how you drew it up right before the game. I think all the way back to game 1 versus LA versus the Lakers, when our bench outscored LA by 1 million, right? And everything was clicking. Fast forward to tonight here, Jack. Rough and ugly start for these bench guys. Racked up a lot of early fouls, did not have the impact once again we're used to seeing. I'm still waiting for that DDV blow-up game. I mean, the bench got outscored, 36-11, I want to say. I think I want to tie that in to Mike Conley. I mean, how important was Mike Conley tonight? And again, maybe the box score doesn't really show it, but 28 minutes, 7 points, 3 for 9, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, but second on the team, the second highest plus minus on the team. So clearly a huge impact. Can you talk to us about the bench struggles and then just again how huge Mike Conley was tonight for this team?
Yeah, for sure. I just think that the Wolves really struggled to get into their half court offense when Mike Conley was not on the floor. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker really struggled with the ball pressure up top. Dante DiVincenzo really struggled with the ball pressure up top. I thought tonight was one of the worst games Dante has had all season. Just didn't really look comfortable out there. Got called for 2 offensive fouls, running guys over, which was just kind of odd and unlike him. And I just think that because the Wolves had such an issue with just trying to start their early offense at the top, way out above the break, it just disrupted the whole entire flow of what they were trying to do and created turnovers that then went the other way for Golden State. I mean, look, the Timberwolves turned it over 21 times in this game, and they're so fortunate that Golden State only scored 13 points off of those 21 turnovers, because there were some bad live ball turnovers that the Wolves got bailed out with the Warriors, just creating some sloppy turnovers or committing some sloppy turnovers on the other end of the floor. And so, I think that was the biggest thing for me. And then those guys just couldn't stop fouling early on in the game. I mean, in the first half of this game, Nas, and Dante, they had, I think they had 3 turnovers, or maybe it was in the first quarter. They had 3 turnovers, 3 fouls, and only 2 points. And so, again, obviously a lot of those 36 bench points came from Jonathan Kuminga, who had 30 by himself tonight in this game. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I just think that those guys just really could not find a rhythm after all 3 of them seemingly were in a rhythm in that in that second game. And so I think for Mike to be able to show that he can still go out and give you, 7, 5, and 4 and play 28 minutes and still be super impactful despite not shooting it the best that he can, was really important. I thought too, especially in possessions where the Warriors went zone, they played some 3-2 zone in this game. I thought Mike was really good at kind of running before he caught the ball to then be able to split that rotation on the second side and get into the paint. He was willing to take some of those floaters. I know they didn't necessarily drop. He was just 2 of 5 from 2 in this game, but his willingness to take those and be a threat, I think, is going to at least make Golden State think a little bit and could open up some opportunities for him to throw lobs to Rudy in those types of settings. But again, just his willingness to play off the dribble and get below the 3-point line and then make some good passes from there, I thought was really important. And so Mike, Mike deserves a lot of credit for his ability, to just stay available at his age and in these types of games and these moments. And one other thing that I want to call out too, I thought Mike Conley's defense was so good, and the way that he pretty much totally shut Buddy Hield's water off when those guys were matched up. I mean, Buddy still had 14 points, but I would be, I can pull up the numbers here too, for Buddy Hield when Mike Conley was off the floor. But I think too, you saw it late in that fourth quarter, right? I think the Wolves were up 7 with like 2 minutes left, and
top of the key.
And what happened was Chris Finch put Nickeil Alexander-Walker in the game for defense, and then Nickeil just got killed on a screen, and Buddy Hield had a wide open 3 to cut it to 4 and just seemingly, turn this game into a game again after it felt like the Wolves were going to run away with it. And it's just moments like that where, Mike knows those types of things are coming, and he drew an illegal screen once he came back into the game too. So I think too, like, we all want to talk about Mike for his ability to just get things set up in the half court. But the way that he fought defensively, like if you go back and just watch this game and the possessions, it was crazy the way that he fought over screens, the way that he prevented Buddy Hield from getting clean looks from 3. It's just remarkable to see him do this at 37, 38 years old. So I don't have enough good things to say about Mike, and it's just yet another reason why all these guys love him.
Well said there. A couple minutes left. Got to talk about Game 4, a little preview again. That's still in Golden State. That's all coming up, though, right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode also brought to us by BetterHelp. BetterHelp, when your schedule gets packed with work projects, could be kids, whatever it may be, it's so easy to let your priorities start to slip, even when we know what makes us happy. But when you feel like you got no time for yourself, the non-negotiables like therapy, they become more important than ever. If you've been thinking about starting therapy, maybe it's time to give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, and it's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited for your schedule. All you got to do, so simple, fill out a brief questionnaire. You get matched up with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Go visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today. You're getting 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Want to ask you about Game 4 preview, obviously, but you mentioned Kuminga. Talk to me about what your just thoughts about Kuminga. I'm looking at the minutes here, the box score. Steve Kerr last game, rolled through 14 different guys. Tonight, only 10, but it helps when you got a guy like Kuminga coming off the bench. 36 minutes, 11 for 18 from the floor, 3 for 4 from 3, ends up with 30 points. What was your thoughts about Kuminga tonight? Because he was in there whenever Jimmy Butler wasn't, and also there's some vulnerability to his game though when he is on the court. I know you notice as well.
Yeah, I mean, they really only played 8 guys, considering that Post played 3 minutes, Moody played 3 minutes. And I just want to tie up one loose end from the last segment. So about Mike Conley. So Buddy Hield played 21 minutes when Mike was when Mike was on the court. He only scored 5 points on 2 of 7 shooting. And then in the 12 minutes that Mike was off the floor, Buddy Hield scored 7 points, scored 9 points in those 12 minutes. And that, so I feel like there was a super high correlation there. But with Kuminga, Kuminga was not in the rotation for the majority of this, rest of the season once Jimmy Butler got traded to the Warriors. And part of that was due to, Steve Kerr said this pregame of just, the Warriors' ability to kind of find a rhythm and find a formula that worked while Kuminga was hurt, and then came back and they just kind of, didn't necessarily give him those minutes. But Steve Kerr also said pregame that, like, Jonathan Kuminga is a guy who plays the same position as Jimmy Butler, has a really high usage rate, and that, when he's out there, he needs the ball in his hands to be impactful. And so, pretty much what I inferred from that was that Jonathan Kuminga was going to play every second that Jimmy Butler was not on the floor. And that is what happened tonight for the most part. And Jonathan Kuminga totally, I thought impacted the game offensively in a very similar way that Jimmy Butler did. I mean, those 3 guys scored 63 of the Warriors' 97 points tonight. And those guys did the majority of their work in the paint. And I thought that Jonathan Kuminga and Jimmy Butler both, I think, used kind of the same formula to get their points, in that, the Wolves were switching everything. And I didn't necessarily love that decision, considering that, Steve Kerr, conceded pregame that there were going to be a lot of lineups on the court without a lot of shooting, not a lot of spacing. Yeah. And I just thought that the Wolves, stayed attached on guys that weren't really shooters far too much when Jimmy Butler and Jonathan Kuminga were trying to drive. I would have liked to see more help out of the strong side corner and force a Gary Payton, force Jimmy Butler, Draymond, or Pods to make those threes rather than give Jimmy Butler and Jonathan Kuminga a straight line drive to the basket. And so the way that those guys were able to force switches, especially onto Dante DiVincenzo and Naz Reid, and just take advantage of those matchups over and over and over again, was really tough for the Wolves. And I thought that, whether it was trying to throw a little bit more of a zone or just help in the gaps more, that was something that I would have liked to see from Minnesota in this game. But I just think that he did a great job of putting his head down and attacking. And on the other end of the floor, I thought that Anthony Edwards did a phenomenal job of going right at Kuminga. I think he realized, I'm stronger than this guy, and this guy's not quick enough laterally consistently to stay in front of me. And I think he did a really good job of taking advantage of that matchup. And Kuminga got lost on screens a few times and allowed Ant to get into the paint, draw a few fouls, which was really important as well. And that's another reason why Kuminga hasn't really been in the rotation. I just don't think his attention to detail on the defensive end is as high as it needs to be. He's gotten beat on the offensive glass a few times for offensive rebounds for the Wolves, and has had some bad turnovers that have led to Wolves points going the other way. And so for Kuminga tonight to have the game that he did, I just think is so important without Steph out there. But again, if you would have told me coming into this game that the Timberwolves would allow 63 points to Jimmy Butler and Jonathan Kuminga, and they would turn it over 21 times, I would say, that's the formula for Golden State to win. And if Golden State, couldn't make this a game, couldn't win this type of game, then I just don't see how they're going to win a game without Steph Curry in this series. And, again, I think it was just the calculus that they wanted to, kind of their offensive calculus in this game was, we're going to get downhill and we're going to kick the ball out, but we're not going to kick the ball out to shoot threes. We're going to kick the ball out to then create an easier driving lane to the rim. And for the Wolves to, play the way that they did in the first half and seemingly allow, all sorts of paint points in that first half. And then the way that Kuminga and Butler outscored the Wolves 22-18 in the paint in the first half, largely because of the way that and then they drew 5 shooting fouls as well. So the way that they were able to move the defense around, get switches, and then attack off straight line drives, while the Wolves just weren't able to do a bunch of anything in the paint. And the way that the Wolves were able to flip that in the second half was pretty important. And I think the Wolves deserve a lot of credit for the way that they were able to move the defense around, get Golden State kind of out of position, out of the gaps, and then be able to attack, whether it was from the corners, from the middle of the floor, was huge. So yeah, big credit to the Wolves for overcoming, what definitely felt like a winning formula for the Warriors.
Yeah, 100%. You got to be discouraged. Got to be disappointed if you're the Warriors. Putting together that game plan, that blueprint, that recipe, and still coming up a little bit short. Game 4, Monday night. It's a late one, 9 p.m. tip. Again, here's the thing. You're up 2-1, which is a lot different feeling than being down 2-1, but still waiting for this team to play their best brand of basketball here, Jack. And again, thank God they won tonight, but eventually it's going to catch up to them, right? You can't get cute in the playoffs versus every team, every series, and expect to keep winning these games. Not to say that they haven't played a couple great games of basketball this playoffs, but so is game 4, though, coming up Monday night? Is this the game they can finally put it all together? What's the recipe? What's the catalyst they need? And I guess, as always, what's your biggest keys to game 4, biggest X factors, biggest adjustments, etc.?
Yeah, I think the formula is to continue to play through Julius Randle, right? I think the way that they've been able to force switches, get Julius Randle kind of at the nail or at the elbow, whether it's on pods or healed, he's really done well in those matchups. And even tonight, he's too strong for Jimmy Butler, which is crazy to say. And he had his way with Draymond Green more times than not too, which there are very few players in NBA history who can say that they've been able to do that. And look, when Julius Randle was on the floor, they played through him the whole time. They won the minutes that he was on the floor by 14, 90-78. They had a 118 offensive rating with Randall on the floor, and they had a 67 offensive rating in the 8 minutes that Randall sat. So I think that you got to continue to play through him. I think that if Randall's off the floor, I think Mike Conley has to be on the floor. I think that's something that's going to be a key to watch. I just think that with the way that those two guys stabilize things, especially with that extended pressure that Golden State showed and some of their trapping that they showed as well, they've just got to have one of those two guys on the floor. So I think that's going to be an important key for the Wolves moving forward. Chris Finch said that what the Wolves are going to have to do is they're going to have to win the possession battle and the field goal attempt battle. And the Wolves definitely did that for, the majority of the first half of this game, but the Warriors got them in that department in the second half. So the Wolves only won that category by 1. But again, if you're going to take 11 more threes and make, 3 more threes than your opponent, you're probably going to be in a good spot. I mean, the Warriors needed to shoot 10 of 18, 55.5% from 3 in the second half to really make this as close as it was. And if, Golden State's going to kind of continue playing that math game of we're going to live in the paint and take, the majority of our shots there in the paint, and the Wolves are going to be able to create, threes at the rate that they are. Golden State has to be so efficient in order to make it work. Yeah. And I just think against this Wolves defense with limited offensive options, it unquestionably favors the Wolves. And the other part of this too, right? So game 4, the Warriors will have played at the end of game 4. The Warriors will have played 9 playoff games in 16 days. And the more you're just asking all these other guys who have played extended minutes to try to step up offensively, and it just gets pretty tough. And the Wolves
how many more punches can they throw here, Jack? I mean, this is they totally got to be running on E here soon. Eventually, maybe the only thing keeping them going is like if we can just get Curry back, whether it's game 5 or 6, and keep this thing close, maybe we got a shot.
Yeah, I think again, like all these guys are fighting like hell to just give Steph a chance because they know that. He is the system offensively, right? Just with the amount of off-ball movement, his shooting gravity, his shot making, his ability to get into the paint and finish. I mean, everything that Steph Curry does is everything that this team is lacking right now, and he just makes the game so much easier for everyone else and can overcome some of that kind of lack of chemistry and consistency that these guys have played with, especially with Jimmy Butler, right? Because he's only been here since February. So Golden State's just swimming an uphill, is swimming upstream right now. And it's really tough to do that. And especially when you don't have, arguably the best offensive player in the NBA. So, I think for the Wolves, you've got to make sure that you just play harder than Golden State. If you play harder than Golden State, the talent disparity is going to win out in this game, in this series. And I think for the majority of this game, Golden State played harder than they did. And the Wolves, played hard at the right moments in that fourth quarter. That when I felt good when they won 3 or 4 50-50 balls in the first 3 or 4 minutes of that fourth quarter, and that was a good sign. And I think that they need a lot more of that moving forward. I think just play hard, let the scoreboard take care of itself, let the talent disparity take care of itself, because that's just the reality of where things are at right now. And you just don't want to let the Warriors get to a game 6 where they can get 3 days of rest, come back home, and maybe create some momentum going into a potential game 7. So
T-Wolves rally back. They explode in that fourth quarter. Anthony Edwards, 36 points, 28 in the second half. Julius, the game MVP, triple-double, 24 points on the night, 102-97. That's your final. Wolves go up 2-1. As always, huge shout-out to all you guys, all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. All you guys coming in the chat with us from game to game, over 200 of you live with us right now on the stream. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Please go follow Jack on X at JRBor13, live in Cali at Golden State in the Bay right now. And of course, he'll be back at the Target Center as well during game 5. Game 4, Monday night. Again, it's a late one, 9 p.m., but we'll catch you right here. Same time, same place. Until then, signing out.